All right, welcome to today's class on typing Jill Stein. I'm a little bit sick today, as you might be able to hear. But yeah, we're going to be covering her MBTI type as well as her objective personality type. Dr. Jill Stein has run for president a few times for the Green Party. And yeah, as usual, there's no type accuracy guarantees. And yeah, the order of what we're going to go over today is do a tiny recap on the previous episode as usual, um, and then just get into the clips of what is Jill Stein's type, how is she appearing in different interviews, and then what is our final guess for Jill Stein's type. I'll also be adding chapters so you can skip ahead if you really want to. And then what's the next episode? We're going to preview the next episode. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with it. Hamzah Saadah, he is possibly some kind of INFJ, jumper, NITI, sleep blast play. So this is a variation of your typical INFJ. So rather than having NIFE, it's more NITI. So he's very, savvy with the politics and that kind of thing. We can see that also with Zoran Mamdani, who's running for mayor in New York City. Um, yeah, I also have him as the exact same type as this, except it might turn out to be the case that Hamza might be double feminine or something else. I'm not sure, but I'm not having any revisions for now. So that's what I'm seeing. And yeah, let's move on to this week's class. Today, we're talking about Jill Stein, who, before she ran for president, she ran for governor in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is known to be this really it's kind of like the brainy center of the eastern coast of the United States. There's Harvard, MIT, all these different really Ivy Leagues, these smart colleges, universities, and yeah, she's a smart person, very intelligent. But yeah, she represents the Green Party and a lot of these idealistic things. Um, but yeah, she did not win as governor, and she did not win as president either. And so in 2012 and 2016, notably, she ran on the Green Party's ticket for president of the United States. And yeah, some people like her, some people don't like her. But the idea is that people in the United States more and more, it's becoming the case that we need a third party. So yeah, that's a thing that she's representing. So why is she filling the role of being the third party candidate? Where even Bernie Sanders doesn't want to do that because he feels like it might be a spoiler for the one-on-one competition between red versus blue. Even though Bernie has idealistic things as well, he has a different way he wants to go about it. But yeah, in 2024, she ran for a third time as a presidential candidate for the Green Party. And yeah, every time she pairs up with somebody, and it doesn't seem like she's that invested in being the person for president, but she is trying to represent the interests of the Green Party and all this. So I don't think she's necessarily that ego driven, though that might be part of it. There might be a bit of ego. Um, but it's more about the principles and the ideas that she's trying to move forward. And yeah, at least that's maybe a naive take, but that's kind of the impression I'm getting. But yeah, for the 2024 campaign, she didn't get, I think, as many votes as 2016. But anyway, we're trying to look at her type. There's less about politics, it's more about the type. So the first impressions I got is that she might be some kind of INTP person. That's at least my impression, because she reminded me of Jane Goodall, a little bit of Bernie Sanders even, and Dr. Anna Lemke, who, I mean, they're all doctors really. So it's like at a certain point, how many times you have to say doctor? Yeah, Jane Goodall, Anna Lemke is a psychiatrist. She talks about dopamine a lot. Dopamine Nation, I think, is one of her books. But yeah, here we go. Here's some older INTP women, and it might be the case. Maybe Jill is one of them. Who knows? But at least Jane Goodall and Anna Lemke have been typed in objective personality as some kind of INTP. I did not double check those types, but I believe those are accurate or close to it. I'll add a footnote if not. But anyway, that's my first impression, is some kind of INTP. And we also saw a little bit of her with the Hamzah Saadah class. So if you're coming from there, you'll get a bit of a early taste on how she is, how she's talking. But anyway, let's get into the first actual clips. So I have 4 videos today. And the first one, we're going to be looking at Cenk Uygur. I don't know how to say his name, but yeah, double masculine, SETI, consume, play, blast, sleep. That's his type. So that's the interviewer's type. And how is Jill Stein going up against this interviewer? You know, are they vibing well? Is she more extroverted, less extroverted, or is it about the same? And that's an interesting thing to do when it comes to typing. So let's take a look at that. And this first clip is just to get to know Jill a bit.
Forward.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you were not let into the presidential debates. You were let into debates
at
the state level of Massachusetts, right?
Against Mitt Romney.
And Dr. Jill Stein's got an undergrad degree from Harvard and a medical degree from Harvard, and is from Massachusetts. And you ran for governor in Massachusetts, for people who don't know.
That's right.
So now, and then I'm also amused by the idea of the CNNs of the world saying, no, people are not interested in a third-party candidate, when there's polling that says 44% of Americans today, even before the general election has begun, would like a third-party candidate. Mm-hmm. Now, if 44% of Americans want that, it seems like they're interested, right? And that's with no free media, right? There's no media at all pushing for third-party candidates. And isn't that interesting, too? Why in the establishment press do you never see any discussion of, hey, why aren't we talking about this huge percentage of Americans that are dying for a third-party candidate when we've never even discussed it on air, right? We've never given it any kind of airtime or anything along those lines. And like I said, Gary Johnson's already polling at 10%. You're at 4%, and the NBC will be interviewing Gary Johnson as well at some point on the Young Turks. So now let's talk about the number one charge against you.
Before we go there, can I just address one other point about how the word gets out and the mechanics of how we build? There are 43 million young people and going into middle age and beyond who are trapped in predatory student loan debt. They happen to be very well networked. They're really good at self-organizing on the internet. There's only one place that they can put their votes in order to cancel their debt. My campaign is the only one that will do for young people what our misleaders saw fit to do for Wall Street not that long ago, when they bailed them out to the tune of like 16 or 17 trillion dollars when you count all the free loans that they got. But it was about 4 trillion in free money in the form of so-called quantitative easing, which is a magic trick that basically people don't need to understand any more about than that it is a magic trick. So it was about 4 trillion we gave the crooks who crashed the economy. It's about time that we bail out the young people who are victims of that waste, fraud, and abuse on Wall Street. There's a very compelling argument for it, not only because it's the right thing and the just thing, but it's also essential for our economy in order to liberate the real engine of creativity and inventing the new economy for the 21st century, et cetera. And also because social change is always led by the younger generation. Right now, they are missing in action because they're very busy working 2 and 3 part-time lousy jobs in order to try to pay back these loans. So it's good all around. We're the only place those votes can go. 43 million is a winning.
All right. So like, what kind of role is she playing in the tribe? She is basically talking in terms of NT, but she's not trying to overload the other person with that much NT. Now that's basically it's nerd talk. You know, quantitative easing. Do you know about quantitative easing? Why does this old lady know about quantitative easing? You know, like, why is she talking about it? How does she know that people don't need to understand it? She's referring to it as a magic trick. Anyway, these are things that I can track with people who are intelligent. They kind of know that they're talking past people and they had to draw things back. And I don't know, anyone can do it. Anyone can say this. Anyone can talk about quantitative easing. But I think the way in which she's going about it is telling if you're into the personality typing game. Yeah, but this was just to get to know her. The next clip, we're going to see her talk a little bit more about, well, just kind of going back and forth with Cenk. And I kind of think that she has a similar animal stack of that Cenk has, where it's consume, play, or play, consume, and then blast with sleep last. So because they're keeping up with each other, and maybe just check that out, see if Jill is able to keep up with and fire back to Cenk.
World War, where basically, returning GIs got free college education, and Congress was following the numbers. For every dollar that was put in, $7 were returned. So this is just bunk about it not being affordable. It's actually not affordable not to do it. So
and what
it can
about
be
the
done.
existing loans?
The existing loans. Okay, so they're largely held by the U.S. government, which is sort of the final, place of accountability for that money. So they should be canceled in the same way that the debt of Wall Street was canceled, essentially writing it off as a digital, sort of a digital hat trick, which is done in the form of quantitative easing. In the case of Wall Street, this was not good for the economy because it simply enabled more reckless gambling with taxpayer dollars, essentially. But in the case of liberating a generation to actually use their skills to do what they've been trained to do, to reinvent the economy, to take the risks that need to be taken in order to create that new economy of the 21st century.
So
this is great.
You'd write off all student loans.
We would cancel them in the same way that they were canceled for Wall Street.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you've got a student loan right now, you wouldn't have it anymore if
It's
Jill
gone.
Stein becomes president.
It's right. That's right. It's
Okay.
gone.
Now, I'm sure that the critics would then say, and I think it's a fair question to ask,
Yes.
but now wait a minute, on Wall Street, they got the $4 trillion, but they didn't put it in their pocket. They had to circulate that money, so they had to loan it out to people. Now they got, to me, it's unbelievable that they get it at almost 0% interest rate.
Okay.
But in this case, what you're proposing is not a 0% interest rate, it's to cancel the loans completely.
So what happened on Wall Street was there was about 17 trillion if you include the free loans, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the free loans largely got paid back. But still, that's important. If you forget about the free loans and just consider the money, the debts that was canceled, that was 4 trillion in the form of quantitative easing. So that's not money that was transferred to them. It's simply a debt that was bought up by the US government and then essentially zeroed out, canceled. So it didn't put money in their pockets, so to speak, but it rid them of all that debt that they would otherwise have to pay. So that's exactly what we are calling for here, a quantitative easing, which is not money in their pocket. It's essentially that the government has bought up that loan and it tears up the contract. It's over.
Okay. To be honest, I'd have to look more into that proposal to see, how those two different things juxtapose.
Yeah. And now you have Cenk talking about juxtaposing. So yeah, I mean that's a point for Annie on Jill's side because she's getting Cenk to think about these different concepts, and now they're having to exchange homework. This is what I see with the information dominant people, is that they're basically exchanging homework. They consume information, they take information in, and then they blast it out. They're going back and forth between the consume and the blast. They're learning information and then redistributing it. And that's what I see Jill doing. That's what I see Cenk doing. And I think they have the same animal stack, and they'll just share info back and forth and do each other's homework. But yeah, that's pretty good for that. And again, now we have Hamzah from before, but this time we're going to try to take a look at Jill Stein's perspective as to what is she talking about, and can we get a little bit more of a glimpse as to which functions she's using. So let's take a look at that.
And climate change as well. The injustice for everyone in order to achieve that peace and security.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, there are many communities in the U.S. who have been persecuted and marginalized throughout history. And that's why we have conflict and tension. It's all about the root even. And Netanyahu said, they didn't have enough money to keep it running or something. Like, what are you?
Vicious to me. So I did not go there and, kind of had questions about it, but it wasn't until, much later that I began to actually hear about it. And it was in the 2000s, actually, once I had become part of the Green Party, that I started learning about it, because the Greens had sort of focused on this issue for quite some time. And in 2006, the Greens adopted a position in favor of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and in support of Palestinian human rights and recognizing Israeli apartheid. So that was in 2006. And that's when when I first started really learning about it, when the Green Party was dialoguing, and we had a lot of Zionists, within the Green Party as well. So there was a lot of debate and dialogue, but it was really interesting that people were persuaded, and it was just an example of how educating people and clarifying what the facts of the story are that really changed people's views. So that was a very encouraging thing. And then when I first ran for office in 2012 for a national office, I had to really understand this a whole lot better because it was part of our platform. So, it was gradually over that period of time that I came to understand, and then it was with the, the appearance of this genocide that I really started digging in much deeper to really try to understand in detail what was going on, because it just shot to the head of the agenda as, kind of, the number one sort of emergency, because we're paying for this. It's not that there aren't other genocides going on. There are, but this is happening with our dollars and our, and our weapons. So this is just blood on our hands.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, it's really.
Yeah. So I think the thing to get from this clip, and I think I might have messed up the clips a bit, but what she's doing in, when she's talking to Hamzah, is bringing up kind of the anti-consume aspect of, like, how do you get a policy changed when you have a certain viewpoint and you're trying to get other people to agree with you. How are you doing that? It's about understanding. She's talking a lot about the understanding, and then about I think within the Green Party, there are certain people with a certain view, like Zionists, and she's having to talk to them and then convince them. And it's a certain, it feels to me a lot like how Bernie Sanders goes about things. And it seems to be a lot longer tail. It's kind of the SI version of explaining things kind of from a more foundational root perspective. But yeah, it's, I think the next clips will demonstrate some of these aspects a little bit better, but I think you could get a little glimpse of the NE, or the extroverted intuition there, and kind of the slowness of TI. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. And we got 2 more clips, but that'll be it. This one, she is with her campaign partner, the VP candidate that she was running with, on the Green Party. This is for the 2024. They went on the Breakfast Club show, where even though Charlemagne is there, the ESFP, he brought in this lawyer person who might be a little bit closer to Kamala Harris's type, maybe a number 1, someone who's holding basically a Jill Stein to account, asking the TE questions. So she's getting asked a DE question basically in this clip, and let's see how Jill responds. I'm seeing possibly some DI here, but let me know what you are seeing from this clip. This one was it was kind of hard to watch this whole video. I did watch it, and oh man, yeah. But you can see her decider coins, her judging coin functions very easily here.
The time was right. And right now, we know that the American people are clamoring for other options. The other options, like namely us, we are the major option on the ballot across the country. We are being denied airtime. We're being censored. We're being silenced. We're being canceled effectively, very much by an explicit plan through the Democratic Party, which they've actually been explicit about.
I understand that, and you've repeated that today, Dr. Stein. What I'm trying to say is, with the the very aggressive agenda you have, I said to you all, I agree with a lot of what you have there. What I'm talking about is, as a political strategist,
let me tell you,
is your pathway?
On day one,
who are your,
let me tell you, on day one,
your allies?
on day one, we stopped the genocide. Okay,
Who
there's
are
a
your
lot.
allies?
So there's a lot that
I'm trying, but I can't get an answer to my question.
Because your question, however, denies the power that the president has as the executive. The president has a fair amount of executive authority to actually begin the process. So that process begins with stopping the genocide on day one, which happens with a phone call. It's happened before. This absolutely will happen, especially if we invoke the weapons embargo.
So would you say that you don't need allies?
On issues where you have executive authority, what you need are allies among the people, but you don't need the votes in Congress for much of this agenda. To declare a climate emergency, which we have. The Colorado River is about to shut down. We got people dying from heat, from inadequate food supply. People can't afford their food. Yet the major source of food in the U.S. Is in deep trouble right now. The Colorado River is within 1 to 2 years of shutting down. That supplies the California agriculture system.
What do you mean?
It's drought.
Drying
Yeah,
out.
it cannot get into the system. It can no longer get through the outlets coming out of Lake Mead, which is where you have this big reservoir. It's almost too low to make it into the irrigation system to reach many states, but especially California agriculture, which supplies half of the fruits and vegetables for the U.S. So you think food prices are bad right now, just wait a year or two. They're going to be in real trouble. So we would declare a climate emergency, which there absolutely is right now. We just had over 100 days of over 100-degree weather in Phoenix. We got weather conditions that have never happened before. We're in serious jeopardy, not to mention the storms and drought and the trouble for.
All right. Yep, that's great. So that's where she's finally powering up her NT consume and sharing all the patterns that she's seen. That's the NE, and then the TI is the ideas that are coming from her that she's collected, that she's built on. And that's why when Angela, and this is kind of the slam dunk, this is the clip kind of that helped me figure out what Jill Stein's type is, at least from my perspective. It's because she was asked this question, this DE tribe question of, hey, who are your allies? And the IP, in this case, I think she's an INTP probably. And this person, Jill, is talking about policies and concepts and how things work and where things are going, and just some vague, blurry people, in the side who are supposed to support, what she's got going. But yeah, it's just a very interesting, situation where, you're missing the tribe completely. You have really good answers. You have really good consume and understanding, but you're going to be missing the other side. People are looking for you to have a team. Who is your team? Who's next to you? So you can make something up, but she's not making anything up. She's just going straight back to her kind of policy talk. So this is the last clip, and it's just basically one of her campaign ads. But just get a feel for is this an INTP? Okay, I've made that assertion. Now you make a decision, make a guess. What do you think Jill Stein's type is? And then how would you guess her campaign video to be? I think she's an INTP, so she's going to talk about some issues, some policies, some concepts, some future, making the future better, that kind of thing. That's my guess. Now let's see what it actually is.
We have fascism right here and now in the form of the Biden-Harris administration, who are conducting a genocide. There's no greater sign of fascism than genocide. The Democrats are not the solution. They are part of the problem. The American public is with us. The world is with us. And the eyes of the world are watching. And they want to shut down this genocide. They want to end the flow of weapons. They want to end the assault on Lebanon.
The coming Kamala Harris administration, the current Biden administration, they're sending a clear message that genocide is okay.
The world is in agreement on this. The only ones who are not in agreement is our criminal warmongering leadership, who should be in The Hague. They should not be walking the streets of America as the war criminals that they are, responsible for 200,000 murders and 2 million people who are being tortured every day in Gaza.
I support Jill Stein because she's the first presidential candidate that I feel like shares the voice of the Middle Eastern people. We do make up a large portion of this country, but unfortunately it's as if our voices are never heard, and finally we have a candidate that actually respects who we are.
We have the power to shut this down, to end empire, to end the squandering of our precious tax dollars, which are being spent on endless war after endless war.
For the first time, as Middle Easterners, we feel like our voices are heard from the presidential candidate. Thank you so much.
So awesome. Forget the lesser evil, fight for the greater good. We have that right here and now in our campaign.
It's very clear that the two-party system is corrupt. Both sides have become a genocidal oligarchy, and we can't stand for it anymore.
Thanks to everyone who's out there in support of ending this genocide in Gaza now.
This is Jill Stein, and I approve this message.
All right. So, what do we get from that? I mean, the point of watching that in a context of personality typing is you see the differences between a political ad by, let's say people of different types. And if she isn't, let's say she is an INTP, the way that she's talking about her issues, it's not the way that Zoran Mamdani does with NI, where it's just issue after issue and it's just these high-level concepts. They're still high-level concepts, but it's more so connected through SI. Like when she's talking about a genocide, it's connected to climate, it's connected to this and that. There's this kind of like a web of connections from one political issue to the next. And whereas for NI, it's a bit more kind of like essence, or like it's a cloud, so that's something to track when it comes to typing NT people and in politics. So yeah. Yeah, it sucks being sick. But yeah, elimination tool today with Jill Stein. The first thing I eliminated was that she has to be a decider. There's some weirdness you can catch in interviews, and if you watch her for a longer period of time, you could definitely catch all the NEs, so like the concepts and stuff. And then, yeah, consume and play. She's jumping from one idea to another. She's not very organized. Her points are not organized in any particular kind of way, just like me. I'm play consume, she's possibly consume play. And yeah, let's keep going. And so another thing is, I think she's extroverted. I thought she kept up with Cenk Uygur very well, and she's information dominant. She has her information. When she gets challenged on the info, she has the info. She's never caught empty-handed. That's the difference. Is like, for me as a Blast Blaster, energy dominant, if someone's attacking me saying I don't have the right information, I'll just be like, whatever, I'll just leave. I'm not going to fight about the information, because at a certain point, I just don't have the energy to like just keep fighting on info. But she is hanging in there. She has her points. She has everything. Yeah. And then finally, the last narrow down is thinker. Yeah, so if I'm seeing her as a thinker and self-above tribe, then that would mean INTP. I did consider ESFJ for a bit. That's possible, the FENE version. But yeah, this is what I'm seeing. INTP, sleep last, and social. Well, we'll get into that, into the actual final guess. So here's the final guess: social type 3, double feminine, TINE, consume, play, blast, sleep last. So that's my final guess for Jill Stein. Yeah, social type wise, since I didn't really talk much about that, I would say that she does have a specialty. She knows what she's talking about. She knows the topics very deeply. And when it comes to running for president, it's less of an ego thing, although that's partially playing a factor. It's more for the specialist of, hey, we need a third party. And she's doing whatever she has to do to keep the third party dream alive. That's what I see. Yeah, that's a standard INTP. And yeah, I like it. It's I'm pretty confident with this guess compared to some of the others. But yeah, that's Jill Stein for you. I enjoyed typing her. And yeah, in 2 weeks, I'm typing Dr. Cornel West. So everybody's a freaking doctor, at least. And in 4 weeks, I'm typing Dr. Norman Finkelstein. But yeah, these are, more political activist type people, but they have a lot of other things they do, So Dr. Cornel West is a philosopher, theologian, and a bunch of other things. And yeah, I'm going to enjoy that. I don't think he's the same type as Jill Stein, but you can kind of see a pattern. There's some patterns, I believe, that are holding up for a lot of the classes I'm doing. But yeah, Norman Finkelstein will be a different type than these, but not that different probably. Yeah, that's a bit of a spoiler, but yeah, anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying these classes, and yeah, check out the links in the description. Check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I feel better by the next video. Like and subscribe, and take care. Yep. These classes have been pretty fun to do.